I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.
What up, mean militia? I'm Mean Joe Grizzly, and while I'm not trying to teach my son how to be a man by taking him to the infected-ridden mainland, I'm at the Grizzly Cave, watching movies, reading comics, listening to metal, and of course, crushing beers. I'm back at the Grizzly Cave to bring y'all my review of the long-awaited sequel, 28 Years Later. And it has been 18 years since the last entry in this franchise, and the real question is, was the wait worth it? Let's find out. This is Grizzly Grade Reviews. "30 years after the rage virus escaped from the bioweapons lab, a group of survivors live on a small island under a ruthlessly enforced quarantine, with their only connection to the mainland being a single heavily defended causeway. But when one of them decides to venture into the infected mainland, he will soon discover that the infected have evolved in terrifying ways." 28 Days Later is one of the most influential zombie movies since Night of the Living Dead, and it was the introduction of a variant of zombie that we have never seen before to my knowledge, which is the rage zombie. The thought of a full sprinting, gurgling, erratic behaving, pissed off zombie sprinting at me honestly fills me with dread because I'm a fat guy and I can't outrun these guys. I'm absolutely fucking done for. And although this is what 28 Days Later is known for, it is not the only thing that it is known for. 28 Days Later is a phenomenal zombie apocalypse film, and I believe that is undisputed. And yes, they are zombies, guys. I don't give a damn what you people say. They're infected. Nobody gives a shit. They're zombies. They fit all the criteria of being a zombie. And need I remind you that back in the day, zombies were just people that were being hypnotized by voodoo witch doctors. So, suck it. And it's also just a good movie. And I believe that its sequel, 28 Weeks Later, is solid as well. So when original director Danny Boyle and writer Alex Garland were teaming back up to bring us this one, I was beyond excited. This became very quickly one of my most anticipated films of the year. So after 18 long years of waiting, was it worth it? Yes and no. Starting off with the positives, the cast is great. Aaron Taylor Johnson as Jamie is great, and it is so damn good to see Aaron Taylor Johnson get redemption for the pile of shit that was Kraven the Hunter. He got a little bit of redemption in Nosferatu, but this one I believe he gets every bit that he needed because he is great as this flawed but good father who just wants his son to be prepared for this very, very cruel world that he has been born into. You have Jodie Comer as Isla, and she gives this very emotionally draining and physical draining performance as the mother of our protagonist in this movie, where she just plays this really sick person who in ways really does a great job of mirroring someone whose mental capacities are completely deteriorating, and she's just sick and bedridden and cannot really be a functioning member of society because of her illness. You have Ralph Fiennes in here who plays Dr. Ian Kelson. He is this very eccentric doctor that has kind of been made into a boogeyman of sorts, some type of urban legend because of something that they witnessed him doing years ago. Automatically made people say, nah, we're good. We don't want to have nothing to do with this guy. He's weird. He's doing crazy things. And when you finally get the reveal of what he is and what kind of person he is, you find out that he is one of the best people left in this world. And then you have Alfie Williams as Spike. Spike is our protagonist, and he is the absolute star of this movie. He is great at playing this kid who is born into this really, really cruel, dreadful world and is trying to become what his father wants him to be and trying to be strong and rise to the occasion. And he is terrified of doing this. And it shows how much insecurities he has, how much doubt he has in his own ability, and watching him progress through the movie and becoming this very capable person is really good to see, and it's all due to the performance of Alfie Williams. Alfie Williams does a phenomenal job here. One of the many things that people don't like about the movie is what I'm hearing is the story, and I for one love the story. This is a coming of age story in the post-apocalyptic wasteland that is the post-infected 28 Days Later universe. And I found the story to be really, really good and really well done, because it has all the elements it's needed to succeed, with a good main protagonist, a good loving father that is flawed, and him just wanting to make him proud and become the man that he wants him to become. All that is laced around this really, really dreadful world, and I felt like it worked perfectly. And it's very similar to A Quiet Place Day One, which I know a lot of people had mixed feelings about as well, but for me, I thought A Quiet Place Day One was great, and it was a good story. This movie is very emotional. It is one of those movies where a kid that will do anything to save somebody that he loves, and whether that is putting him and that person in danger because they have no choice, or going outside of his comfort zone and into literal danger just to save this person, is one of the things that I found very compelling and engaging about this story. I really like the post-apocalyptic society that we are given here. I think that they have found this medium between medieval, dark age, and modern day, and it's really well done because they are all up to date as far as like societal norms goes, but they are working in the Iron Age, and everybody has jobs and stuff like that. Like, there's kind of a caste system, but not really. There isn't the rich people and the poor people or nothing like that. They're just a community that shares and is synergistic in the way that they do things, where they have someone who's a seamstress, there's someone who is a hunter, there's someone who's an iron worker, someone who's a teacher, someone who is a grocer or something like that. It's all these roles that make up this society, and I thought that was also very interesting, that they're trying to do whatever they can with what they have in a society that's ultimately gone. There is some really, really good moments in this where the tension is at an all-time high, and one scene in particular that takes place on this causeway literally had me and the entire audience I was watching this with on the edge of their seat, because man, it gets like right down to the wire where you think something awful's about to happen, and just by the skin of their teeth they make it out. And I thought that scene was done so well. Which brings me to probably my favorite part of the movie is the infected. The infected are scarier now than they've ever been, and they are evolving. And I wasn't really sold on it at first. I didn't really think that we needed that, but in order to expand this universe, you kind of have to do this. So now the infected are kind of like cavemen. They have their own little society. Now, we don't know how that society works. All that we know is that there are the regular infected. There are these ones that are kind of out in the woods that are real bloated and like just nasty, slow moving ones that are always on the ground. If they get up, they're incredibly slow. But they just sit around, they just eat worms and dirt and stuff until they come across something that they can kill. And then you have the alphas. And man, let me tell you, the alphas are terrifying. Like, imagine an infected that is 6'7", like 300 something pounds of pure muscle, and it relentless, will not stop running after you. That's what the alphas are. They literally look like giant Neanderthals, and they are terrifying. And one of the things I also like about this movie is how damn gory it is. Man, this is the goriest entry in the franchise yet. And I understand that a lot of people say that about a lot of movies, but when I tell you that there is gore in this movie, there is gore. And there's 2 kills in particular that the alphas do that are paying homage to one of the best movies of the 80s. And I'm just going to leave it at that. But it is awesome. There is all kinds of gore going on in this movie. As far as the mix goes, I just wanted a little more information about what's actually going on and how certain things are happening in the movie, because when you leave off on 28 weeks later, the infection had broken out again and made its way to Paris. Well, we're just thrown back into this world on this isolated island off the coast of England, and it's like we don't know anything about what's going on. And then later on in the movie, you're introduced to an outside force that is very modern, and they have all the technology and all this stuff, and we don't know where they're from or what. We do know that one of the soldiers that you meet in the movie is from Sweden, but we don't know whether or not like the whole outside world is okay and this part's just messed up or what, which makes the rules a little bit messy, because there are certain things too that happen with the infected here that we've never seen before. And I understand that they're evolving, but there's a couple of things that happen in the movie that are like, would they be able to do that? Would they logically be able to do the things they do knowing what we know about the infected? And that's something that is kind of left up into interpretation, or maybe just left to where we'll figure out in the next movie. There are a lot of logic issues here. Like, there is one thing in particular that really bugged me, and it was Aaron Taylor Johnson's character of Jamie is this really caring, loving father that wants to protect his family, wants to protect his son. And when his son sets out onto the mainland and takes this loved one with him, I do not buy for 1 minute that he would be sitting there not going after him. Now, I've heard some people say that it's because the causeway was flooded and he couldn't go, that he had to wait till the tide came down. That doesn't make any sense to me, because we see that it does go up and down very regularly. So it just didn't make any sense to me that he would just be sitting there waiting while his son and loved one would be potentially out there dying. And moving on to the negatives, and this is something that I'm not trying to hold against the movie, but I am. But the first two 28 Days Later movies, 28 Days Later and 28 Weeks Later, they are British, just like this one. And they have inherently British stuff in them and culture. But it wasn't really heavy-handed, and it didn't become distracting. This movie has a lot of British culture weaved into it in an art house style, and it does not work for me. It is completely lost on me because I don't know British culture. And that's something that's not necessarily the movie's fault. That is something that is my fault because I'm uncultured. The cinematography in a movie, and I probably should have put this in the mix section, because this movie looks incredible. However, they shot them all on iPhones. And although I think that the picture's credible, this screen is like this big. It looks like this. This is what the screen looks like the entire movie. And to me, it was more distracting than it was stylistic. And it just didn't work for me. If they would have done some way to blow the screen up and made it bigger where I could really see really good, I would have liked it. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. And also, there's some jump cuts in the editing and some weird editing choices, like almost like bullet time at times. And I didn't care for that at all. I felt like it was, again, more distracting than it was stylistic. And finally, there's something that happens at the end of this movie that is, and there's stuff that happens throughout the movie as well, but in the end in particular, there is something that happens that is so fucking weird that only thing I can say is that I'm going to compare it just like everyone else has been comparing it, but it is very reminiscent of Power Rangers. Yeah, I said it. Very reminiscent of Power Rangers. Really strange, out of nowhere, random as hell scene that happens at the end of this movie that I did not like at all. I didn't think it was good at all. And finally, this movie suffers from setup syndrome, is what I call it. We know that this is at least a 2-part movie, where we have this one, and then 28 years later, Bone Temple is coming out in January, I believe it is. And it didn't leave off in a good note to make me really, really be excited for the next one. It left off in the worst way possible, where we now have way more questions than we have answers, and the ending just did not work. And it just makes the movie kind of feel like a setup film. And that's something that I did not want from this movie. And quite honestly, this movie was disappointing to me. It was not at all what I wanted it to be. Now, I don't think it's a complete pile of dog shit like everybody else is saying, but it wasn't what I wanted it to be in what I'm expecting from this franchise, because we already have 2 solid entries. One of the greatest zombie movies of all time, and one a very solid sequel. So it didn't really it didn't really make sense to kind of make this movie the way that they made it and the story that they wanted to tell. It's the first 20 minutes is exactly what I thought the movie was going to be, and then it turns into the coming of age story, which I'm fine with, but then it gets weird, and then certain things happen, and it doesn't really make any sense. So it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and it was very hyped in my own head, and it didn't meet the expectations. And honestly, Nia DaCosta's directing the next movie, and I'm not that big of a fan of Nia DaCosta. The Marvels aren't good. She directed the Candyman remake, and I have my own issues with that movie, but it kind of feels like that movie was ghost directed by Jordan Peele, so I don't really know how much credit I can give her on that. And I just don't think that I don't think that she's that great of a director. I don't think she is seasoned enough. And honestly, she likes message over substance, and that's something that is always going to ruin a movie for me. So I'm hoping that she has some type of restraint and she actually delivers a good follow-up to this, so that we can actually see like how more expansive this universe can be, because I really wanted this universe to expand a little bit more. So ultimately, 28 years later was a disappointment to me. But it's not this pile of crap like a lot of people are saying. Some people are saying this is the worst movie of the year. That's absolute nonsense. I'm going to tell you that right now. So it just wasn't what I wanted to be, but I still think it was pretty solid. So with all that being said, 28 years later gets a 3.75 out of 5. Go check it out for yourself, but be warned, the ending is weird as shit, and you are going to be completely caught off guard by it. Well, that does it for this video. Thank you all so much for continuing to support me. Without y'all, this isn't possible. If you like this video, like it, and if you like it enough, please head over to the channel, hit the subscribe and bell button so you never miss a video. Also, please follow me on all social media platforms so you can get channel updates, movie news, and all forms of badassery. Coming up next is I'm going to try to get a Megan review out. I don't know if that's going to happen. I am going on vacation next week, so I don't know how much time I'm going to have to do that. If I don't get to it, I'll get to it at some point. Until then, I do have another Friday the 13th movie coming out on Friday. It's Friday the 13th Part 3 3D, so make sure you check that out. And also, check out the other Friday the 13th movies I've done in this review series, because I worked really hard on this, and I hope that y'all are enjoying them. But until next time, remember, I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.